What are you doing on Tuesday the 26th of September 2023? Because myself and Francesca Amber are coming to the Barbican Hall in London. Our event is called One Night Stand, and this one night event is all going to be about manifestation, crystal healing, and ridding your limiting beliefs to help you achieve your goals. We've curated an immersive experience that will leave you feeling inspired and empowered. Throughout the evening as well, we'll also have interactive exercises, we'll have empowering discussions, and the opportunity to connect with like-minded individuals on a similar journey towards personal growth and manifestation. There'll even be an opportunity for you to ask questions as well. This event is your chance to break free from the shackles of self-doubt and unleash your inner greatness. It's time to release those limiting beliefs that might be holding you back and step into your true potential. And if you want to come on your own, by all means do that. Single tickets are available and seating is totally unreserved, so you can even meet up with your spiritual friends and sit with them as well. Head to @CannyCrystals on Instagram and click the link in my bio. Tickets are limited, so secure your spot and be part of this transformative experience. Don't miss out on the chance to manifest your dreams and achieve your goals. We can't wait to see you there. Hello everyone, and thank you for joining me on another episode of Canny Crystals, the podcast. As you know by now, my name is Mart, I'm your host, and this week I've got another exciting guest on the show. I'm just really buzzing to have her here today. So I first came across her when I subscribed to Fern Cotton's Happy Place app, and shortly after discovering her, I started following her on Instagram. I was watching her weekly lives, and more recently, I've even bought her book, Tapping In, which is all about manifesting the life that you want by ridding your limiting beliefs through the transformative power of tapping. So please give a very warm welcome to the queen of tapping herself. Poppy Delbridge is on the show. Poppy, it's such an honor to have you here. How are you?
Oh, I'm really happy to be here. Feeling very full of vibes with you.
Yes, me too. So firstly, just congratulations on the book, I suppose. I mean, I got it back at the start of October, I think it was, and I read through it in a couple of days. And just a bit as a caveat, I've done a couple of episodes about how EFT can empower you to kind of manifest your happiest life. But I'm just so excited to talk to you today about it and get your take on it all, because I know your take is very unique, isn't it?
Yeah, I like to think so. Yeah, it's a bit different.
I was going to say, so shall we go right back to the beginning for anyone new listening? Would you mind telling us a bit about who you are, what you do, and what exactly is tapping?
Yeah, of course. So I guess now what I've started to realize is I sort of lead this movement now, which is tapping in, which is the title of the book. Tapping in is really about literally that, tapping into your potential and possibilities that perhaps you didn't realize were there, and really bolstering up the self-belief to make that happen. And I have found training in lots of things and studying lots of different techniques and modalities through the years, just literally since I was little, that tapping is one of the quickest and simplest ways to do that. So I started rapid tapping, which is a way to self-tap and help yourself to create the life that you want in lots of different areas. So I do lots of different things under that sort of banner of tapping in now. The club's coming next year. I work with private clients, brands, lots of people to help them to tap in.
Yeah, I was going to say the world is your oyster, isn't it? So how did it all come about for you? How did you first discover it? Because I know reading the introduction in your book, you talk about your own personal story. Would you mind quickly sharing that, like a little abridged version? Because I do want people to actually go out and buy the book, by the way, because it is a fantastic book. I don't want you to give everything away.
Yeah, sure. Well, with tapping, for me, I really got into it again because I was brought up, you'll see in the book, I was brought up in a particular way. It was quite open to things like this, but I really got into it in a big way when I was going through something myself in relationship. And my mum reminded me of this technique. And, the abridged version is it made me really feel like me again in a moment where I didn't feel like that and I was questioning a lot. And I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And ever since then, it was, for a long time, something I just did quietly myself. I worked in TV at that time, in the media, and it wasn't really a thing, tapping, but it did make me feel like, wow, this is like this little secret weapon I've got. And so I started really honing it. And now, yeah, written the book about it, and I use tapping to create my life in a using manifestation. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say tapping has become a lot more popular, hasn't it, the last few years especially? And I mean, even more recently, a couple of weeks ago, I think you posted a video of Boy George in the jungle on I'm a Celebrity, and he was sat there tapping the points, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So do you think it's become more popular because of manifestation and spirituality? Or do you think it's because people are actually seeing these real life benefits in it?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, when I started getting into it, it was around about sort of 12 years ago, and I've used it ever since then. It's not known to be a device for manifestation. I suppose I was looking at it actually a little while ago, a few years ago. No one really was doing that, so I thought I'll do it because I've been manifesting since I was 8, and that's the way I was brought up, using sort of science and spirituality. I think the reason it's become popular is because the world is in such a bit of a mess, and we're looking for ways to reduce our stress and to manage anxiety and overwhelm. And tapping is one of the best ways to do that. That's the very first way I would advise people to get into tapping. Just try it for in the moment. And then when you get it, then, use the routines of my book, maybe use my style if you like manifesting, and then start to get strategic about using it to create things. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think that's how I got into it initially. I used to be quite overwhelmed and anxious. And I remember sat there one night watching a YouTube video and I was tapping away. And my partner came into the bedroom and he went, "What are you doing?" And obviously, I think all my friends and things think it's a little bit woo-woo, but EFT is evidence-based, isn't it? Because it uses like modern like cognitive therapy to kind of silence that noise in your head. And that helps to shift your energy and help you start living the most joyous version of your life that you can. So I think it's quite it's obviously like a popular thing, but I think it's because people, like you say, want some kind of hope and to get rid of those anxious thoughts in their brain, don't they?
And you're right in saying that it is evidence based. I started off in news, TV news, and I do
Mm.
like things that work as well as all the woo woo stuff. And
Yeah.
this, you can't deny that this has had hundreds of clinical trials. It's
Oh yeah.
really effective with even really PTSD, really really sticky mental illness as well.
Mm.
And so it's really really amazing. The benefits of this in a scientific way. It works with your brain, and it works with your nervous system. So there's a lot going for tapping, and I'm really
Yeah.
glad that it's getting its time, and I hope it just continues.
Yeah. I worked in mental health myself for 15 years and I kind of wish that there was something like, well, I know it was around at the time, but I wish I'd have known about
Mhm.
tapping when I was dealing with patients and clients because I think it would have really helped a lot of the people that I dealt with on a day-to-day basis.
Definitely.
So it's really sad that the NHS haven't really picked up on that and ran with it.
I know.
I think it would have really
It
helped.
would have really helped because then you can use it like day to day mental health, emotional health, because if it's
Definitely.
working at something at a level of, you know, um, really clinical PTSD. They've used it with
Mm.
veterans and had amazing results. Where it really has become very, very much ingrained. Then of
Yeah.
course you can use it for mental health, and you think, wow,
Yeah.
use it.
Yeah. So can we talk about the book as well? Because tapping in, I know the book is kind of split into, well, it's kind of split into three parts, isn't it, really? But the first is to be clear, and the second is to then start and create. So how important is it to clear those paths in our minds that are made up of all those, those blocks and those limiting beliefs before we kind of make it happen and create our new realities?
Such a good question. Because often I think when you're trying to manifest or starting to manifest, there's a lot about the creating. And there's a lot about just visualize it, think happy, let's go. quite hard to do if you're very core, your energetic core and your belief system. You don't believe it to be possible. And so it's hugely important to clear before you create, and then use that as a symbiotic relationship. So you're consistently tapping into new levels, right?
Yeah.
By clearing
Yeah.
as you go. New level, new devil, I used to say.
Yeah.
And, that's just part of being human. And, tapping provides you a place to change and rearrange and reconstruct those old beliefs that you don't want. They're not helping you. And so if you don't deal with those, then you're going to have a lackluster, let's say, result in terms of your manifestation, which I look at quite strategically, actually, like a kind of process for life to pivot into that, real inner power. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I always say to people that you wouldn't build a house on rubble. And it's the same thing, isn't it? You've got to build it on steady foundations. But to get those steady foundations, you've got to flatten everything out. And it's basically a synonym for what's in your mind, isn't it? So it's everything just flattened out and smoothed out. And then you can start to build on that.
Yeah. Louise Hay
yeah.
used to say, you can't clean the house unless you see the dust.
Yes.
And I think
yes,
so
I love
often
that.
we're trying not to see the dust. We will push that down. We just want to see the good and the positive, and we try, but we have to acknowledge and then start to accept the dust, because only then can you actually remove it.
100%. I love that. I work with a life coach, basically, one of my life coaches, and she basically goes through all of the mindset work. And I think since going through that work with her, I've really seen a change in my own well-being and my own manifestation power. And this year has been absolutely incredible for me because I've been able to clear what's there. So it's not like I've just sat and thought, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z, and then I achieve it. I'm actually sustaining this for the future, if that makes sense. And I think that's a great point, isn't it? Like, to be sustainable, you've got to do all that shadow work beforehand.
Absolutely. And keep an eye on it, and know there's nothing wrong with you for having that roller coaster of emotions, but as long as you maintain it and sustain it. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there are a few valuable exercises in your book as well, isn't there? And one of my go-tos, I know this off by heart, it's the self-worth care routine, core routine, sorry, and it's on page 63. I know this off the top of my head. And I know it because I go to it most days. So how do you kind of come up with and create these routines? Is that something that happened to you personally in your own life and then you've put it in the book? Or do you just like kind of feel the need to create them as a kind of a coping mechanism?
So it's come probably from years and years of working as a coach and practitioner. So I've worked with now thousands of people actually in different groups and at different levels. And I created the routines in the book around what I saw most commonly affecting people and that was needed to be cleared. And also in terms of what everyone would like to create, I was like, well, these are the sticking points that I have found through experience.
Yeah.
And so it's less about my own experience and more about what I've seen working. And the way that I sort of create the routines are not to script. So I didn't sit down and go, I'm going to write this out mechanically. I actually did all the routines and kind of I channeled them energetically, and then I reversed that, right?
Oh,
so I was like, right, I'll do that, and then I'll take that energy and put it down rather than the other way around. Yeah, so that's a really interesting question that no one's asked me before, but that's I always sort of channel it out first and then,
That's really interesting to hear as well, because I assumed that these were all your coping mechanisms and I thought this is what works for you. So is this going to work for everyone else? But if this is what you're seeing from your clients and the people that you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, it's really interesting that. Thank you. I remember as well when I first downloaded the Happy Place app, Fern Cotton's app, I think the tapping section was the very first one I visited actually. And I first watched your How to Tap introduction video. And you mentioned on that video that you use both hands to tap. And I've seen that as well on your Instagram live videos. But whenever I watch YouTube videos and things like that, I've only ever seen them use one. And I've only ever used one until I started following you as well. So what's the difference? What's the difference between using one hand or two?
Well, I've always used two. I'm trained in EFT anyway, and they tend to be one. However, there are two meridian. So basically, EFT and tapping was based on acupuncture, acupressure,
Yeah.
and energy points within the body, of which there are hundreds. And that was originally called TFT, thought field
Yes.
therapy. That then got simplified to EFT by a student of Dr. Callahan who kind of invented tapping as TFT. That meant that there were only a few points in the face that we used. Now, when I was training, I thought, well, why are we not doing two? Because there's 2 points here. And not all of them are, but there's two. And I thought, well, there's 2 points. So why don't you use 2 hands? So I started doing it for myself. And I also found that, not many people were doing it. But when you're fully invested in your tap, and obviously I work with manifestation and the power of focus and intention. When you are fully focusing and intending, there's just something about using both hands that takes you out. Like, what's the other one doing? What's that one doing? You may as well be using 2. And it just is a very present giving device that I think, why wouldn't you do double your buck, right, for that time? So there's a few reasons why we use 2 hands. There's others, but that's the main reason why. And in rapid tapping, we only use 2 hands. Yeah.
I was going to say, now that you've explained it, it makes absolute perfect sense. I'm just thinking, well, why haven't I been doing 2 hands before now? But another thing that you uniquely do as well that I don't see anyone else doing, you go around each spot in kind of a circular motion. So if you're doing the crown area of your head, you go round rather than just in the same spot over and over again. Kind of watching you is quite hypnotic, actually. And I think because you usually got bracelets on as well, it's the noise of your bracelets like shaking. I love watching you.
Yeah.
Do you know which one of your videos I enjoy the most as well? It's the Letting the Day Go one. It's on the Happy Place app. It's about 10 minutes long, but I do that one most nights if I've had a bit of a stressful day. I find that it really helps me to chill out and release that day's energy. So what I want to know, is there a specific time of the day that you think tapping is best suited to? Is it best done late at night to release that day's energy? Or do you think on a morning? Or do you think whenever you possibly can?
Yeah, it's such a good question, because a lot of people do come to me and go, hey, when should I do it? And do I over tap? Like, can I do too much of it? Because it can get quite excitingly addictive in a good way. It's perfectly safe. You're basically bringing your nervous system into balance by doing it. So you're never going to over tap. But I would suggest to anyone who maybe hasn't tapped before, start in the morning, because the way that you start your day ends your day very often. So get into that vibe of clearing what feels unhelpful to you in the day with a quick tap, and then you will set yourself into the vibration of possibility just to begin your day of what's possible, rather than, oh, I've got to deal with all this today. It's just a natural human condition. We get up and we're like, meh. So it's a really good, like, quick thing to do in the morning. If you're thinking, how do I start? Do it in the morning.
Yeah, I was going to say, I do mine first thing in the morning with a gratitude journal, usually a cup of green tea or coffee. I love it in the summer more because I'm sat in the back garden while I'm doing it, so I'm grounding at the same time. But then I also tend to do it last thing at night. Like I say, I usually do an app-based one. So in the morning, I'll set my intentions for the day. But if I'm feeling a little anxious, maybe about like a podcast recording that's coming up or a meeting that I've got, I tend to do one just like really, really quickly. I know I really shouldn't, but I do it sometimes while I'm driving along as well. So if I'm on my way to like a really like high stake meeting or something, I'll be sat there in traffic points, like just,
No,
but yeah,
only when the car is stationary.
Yeah, only when it's on my traffic lights. Don't worry, I'm not going to crash. I know as well that the law of attraction and things like that, they absolutely love repetition, don't they? And the more that you do something, the more likely it is to kind of snowball and take effect. So how long would you suggest to continue tapping on the same situation? Because I read sometimes people say it's best for like 60, 75, even 90 days. Some people say, it should be instant. What's your take on that?
Well, life can be a little overwhelming. So how I tend to structure this out to people I work with or anyone sort of in my club and whatnot is look at it in two ways. So one is you look at tapping as a daily thing, which is your kind of SOS, start the day, end the day, in the day. How do I want my mood to be changed for the better quickly? That's a quick tap, SOS tap, daily. Then you look at it, okay, like I was saying, more strategically, more excitingly around the whole life. If it's that, then I often suggest, okay, then we start to go a little deeper. So it's a deep taps. And these are really looking at what I call the wheel of possibility, which you'll see in the book. It's a way of looking at your life. So it doesn't feel like this. One of my clients, Farah, she was like, it's a nebulous mess. It's like, it's nebulous. It's loads. You look at what you feel you would like to focus on, both intuitively and through a little process. And you go, I'm going to focus on this. I suggest 90 days. So in my manifesting process, Pivot into Power, we go 90 days. I do this every 90 days. 90 days. What is it that I'm going to focus on related to my big vision? As a way of looking at your vision in the book. And you go, right, I'm going to focus on ooh, let's say. Ooh is the kind of, soulmate, sex kind of vibe. Your other in your life, love. Yeah. And you would focus on taps around that for 90 days, right? Because it gives you a real sense of power and process. It's not planning, but it is anchoring. So then you can go, okay, after that, what would I like to stay here or do I want to move on? And you really start to just develop this kind of intuitive journey with tapping, which I love. So one of my biggest things is like tapping is brilliant to help you cope. But that's not the only thing it can do. And my mission has always been take the next development of EFT, of tapping, and go, what else can it do? Can it help you create goals, desires of your heart? Yes, it absolutely can. And that's what I've been doing for years and years. And that's the part that I think, I want to champion, that if you do start to repeat this, then it does change your whole energy in a situation. And you do start to feel like, actually, I have got really loads of confidence in that area or self-belief. And yes, now I'm going to move on to another area and get that one nailed. And this is the process I do with my own life. Yeah.
I love that. And I guess consistency is key, isn't it? And I know you spoke there briefly about your transformational online course as well. So Pivot into Power, it's a 12-week course, isn't it? So what does that involve?
Well, this is very exciting news because it's actually changing for next year.
Oh, okay.
News for you. So I haven't actually mentioned this yet, but basically it is a process I've been teaching. I used to teach it live in very small groups, as a coach.
Yeah.
And then so many people wanted to do it, and I really just so live by this, and they had such amazing results. I was like, how can I make this just a bit more accessible? So I've come up with this new thing for next year where if you have read the book and you're like, actually, I like this, but I need a bit of support to kind of navigate this, then the next stage is going to be the Tapping In Club, where I'll be there and you've got to be in it. It will be so much fun. We'll go through basically this kind of Pivot into Power process together on a cycle. So, like I said, I do the 90 days. I look at the vision. I keep doing this myself in rotation. It will be cyclical. So you go through it like that. So now it's gone much bigger than just the 12 weeks. We're basically doing it on an absolute loop to kind of create and step into a sort of envisioned life. So I'm super excited about that.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I'd love to get involved in that, actually. Yeah, as soon as it comes up, I'll sign up, don't worry. And I mentioned this earlier as well, but you also do your weekly live tapping videos on your Rappin' Tap It Instagram page, don't you? And it's usually 11:11 precisely on a Monday morning. And these have become quite popular, even across my friend circle, because I was on, I think it was last Monday's video, for example, and I could see that two of my best friends were watching along with me.
I love
So
that.
I love it. It's almost becoming a bit of a community in itself because I
Yeah.
see the same people commenting week on week. It's really good. So how did that come about for you? What made you want to do something like that?
Well, I really love connecting with people. And during the pandemic, I started doing a lot more online and
Mm,
pivoting into that. And I just loved the energy, and I wanted to do something that was really accessible so that
yes.
everyone could have a taste. And I wanted to do something that was free.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do something on Mondays, because Mondays is the day where you can really change the course of your week if you get your energy right. So I thought, I love 11:11. I've always loved the number,
Yeah.
that kind of vibe of new beginnings. And so I thought, right, 11:11, let's take out 15 minutes of our time in the day. Or lots of people sneak out of their work. They do, or have like a little break, and then they tune in, and it's like you say, it's a community. And I love to get into a vibe, and it delivers a
Yeah.
vibe for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I just say it's the perfect time and the perfect day for me because if I've had like a little tiny break over the weekend, I don't get much of a break, but when I do have a tiny little break over the weekend, I come in on a Monday morning and I come in all refreshed and rejuvenated and high vibe. And then I'll look at my emails and then I'll get dragged under with packing orders. And it gets to about 10:30 or 11 o'clock and I'm absolutely drained. And I think this 11:11 just picks me up every single week continuously. And I'm like, okay, I'm focused again now. So what I've even done is I've started setting an alarm on my phone Monday to Friday for 11:11. And 11:11, I usually go to the self-care core routine in your book or something like that, something along those lines. And I'll just start tapping and I'll just do like a 3 to 4 minute SOS tap. And I call it a remedial tap because it takes me back out of the little anxious thoughts that might be creeping in ever so slightly. And it just brings me back into the present moment.
Whoa, I love that. Amazing.
That's dedication.
That is dedication. And you'll see the results of doing that for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Like I say, it just picks me up ever so much because you know what it's like. It's like they used to call it Blue Monday, didn't they? Like because everyone's like that after a little weekend off, a little break, they come back into work and everyone's just a little deflated, but just a little pick me up, isn't it?
That's
So it's
right.
really good.
That's right. Exactly.
And I know you've also got your virtual vision event, haven't you, coming up? Is that the 3rd of January? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah.
Exclusive, I think, isn't it?
Whoop, whoop, it is. Yeah. So, I'm all about vision, and most of us can be a little frightened by that, and
Mm,
understandably. And for so many years, I've done workshops on vision boarding and how to create vision system. And I really wanted to make that come alive in a new
mm,
way. So I thought on January 3rd, what I'll do is I'll invite anyone who's interested in creating a vision for 2023, and I'll lead them through that and the 7D process that I have. And then also, that will kick off this membership that I'm going to do next year, this club, where we can actually,
fantastic.
move towards that vision. So yeah, it is. I haven't mentioned that before. So there we go.
Exclusive.
Better get the link up.
Yeah. I was really enjoying your rapid tapping podcast when I found it as well. And then I realized I think that the last episode was in
I
June.
know.
So have you any plans to bring that back? Because I really loved it. It was like everything I needed to know about tapping condensed into these little 15-minute episodes. So do you have any plans to bring that back?
Yes, I really loved doing a podcast, and I would like to bring it back.
Yeah.
And everything's still there, so if
Yeah.
anyone's not listened to it, you can go back and sort of binge through it. And there's some taps on there. I would like to bring it back. I haven't got the. I think I'll do this club first, and then figure
Yes.
out how it works in the next iteration. With guests, or I'll
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
what drops in about what it will be. But I would like to. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's difficult when there's one person being the face of the business, really, isn't it? Because you're being pulled and stretched in every direction.
Yeah.
I know that feeling
Yeah.
myself. So what's next for Poppy then? Obviously, other than your your virtual vision event and your new membership. What would you like to achieve next? Like you've been speaking there about a vision board. Like, do you have a vision board? Because I feel like you've been there, you've done that, you've got the t-shirt. So what's on your vision board for the foreseeable future?
Yeah. I mean, my vision board, with those who know me, is quite funny because
Okay.
I'm always like, we need a bigger vision board. So I look back every year like, what was on this one? And I always leave some space as well, which I think is quite interesting about what we haven't even got access to yet that might come through, and
I
how
love
we can
that.
tap into the imagined part. Because you've got to imagine
Yeah.
something. You know, everything that exists now is imagined in some shape or form. So we've got to spend time on imagining. So at this point of the year, I'm imagining up what it is going to come next year and then beyond.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a few things happening. There's a few things coming. We shall see. You shall see.
I love that.
Yeah.
What's been your number one manifestation, if I could ask you, basically the number one thing that you feel that you have manifested by giving your energy and your attention to it, going out there, setting yourself a goal and achieving it? What's the number one thing?
There's
I'm putting you
two.
on the spot.
There's
Okay,
two,
go for it.
actually. The first one I thought of was, okay, the book, because I wanted a best-selling book that got this kind of little thing like tapping out into the public. And I was thrilled when it was like top 10 book of all the books. And I was like, yay! In between like Matthew Perry and like Richard Osman, like proper novels. I was like, yeah!
Love
So
it.
that was brilliant. And I was chuffed about that. And that was something that, you know, I manifested because actually I hadn't written the book. So I got offered to write the book before I wrote the book, and then I manifested in a literary agent. Now all of this is a process of not just wishing. This is
Yes.
Pivot into Power, the 7Ds of how I did it. Some of it is action, of course. But that was really exciting to sort of see that book real this year. And that came, you know, within that year. And then the other thing, which you'll see in the book, is Linen Shirt Man, who's, you know, the guy. I was always quite good at manifesting men. But did I manifest, you know, my soulmate? Yes, I did. That was my absolute focus last year. And building up my self-worth to receive him, like that was a big one. You know, clearing out a lot of old stuff that was still hanging over from previous relationships. We carry so much. And so I was really proud of myself for going into the shadows last year and being ready to kind of receive him. And that has just been a joy this year. So Linen Shirt Man, and anyone who's thinking, actually, you know, can I do this? Can I really have the person of my dreams? You know, I'm really pleased to say yes. You know, I've experienced that. I've done the work, and here he is.
Oh, congratulations. I love that. So how can people find you then, Poppy? Because I know you've got a couple of Instagram handles, haven't you? So how can people find you?
Yeah, so mainly I'm on Insta. Yeah, so at Poppy Delbridge is my main one where I hang out. And I've got at Rapid Tapping for the taps, 1111, and lots of, that's kind of more that side of things, just for tapping. I have another one, a House of Possibility.
Oh, yes,
Which
I
is
was meaning
really
to
a
speak about
place
this
where I'm
actually.
doing
So
events. Yeah.
yeah, House of Possibility. Do you want to like briefly discuss that?
Yeah, so House of Possibility is really, I would say, more like, I consider it in a weird way, like my passion, non-profit kind of passion. So I like to assemble people who can make an impact for a better world, and people have their own style in doing that. And I love working with those people who are mavericks or pioneers, and you know, all sorts of really exciting people I have the pleasure of working with privately. So that is really a place where we kind of get together and, you know, make a difference in our own way with events and how we can bring possibilities out into the world. So I'll be doing much more with that next year. I'm really excited about that. There's another thing that I'm putting on like that. Yeah, there's a lot going on, but I'm really into sort of truly sustainable living that feels like your soul health is involved in this, because we're quite good at mind health, we're quite good at physical health, and soul health has sort of been left by the wayside a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'd like to do more in that.
Oh, thank you so much anyway for popping by and appearing on the show, Poppy. I really appreciate it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop all of Poppy's links in the show notes below, including links to her book, her website, and all of the socials that she's mentioned. And for everyone listening, just go and follow Poppy. Get your copy of Tapping In at the link in the show notes as well. And if you've enjoyed this episode, please submit a quick 5-star review, which just really helps this podcast grow to new audiences. So, Poppy, thank you so much. And I really do appreciate you coming on the show.
Oh, loved it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And I hope that you all enjoyed listening to this episode. So look after yourselves. Have a lush weekend, everyone. And hopefully I'll see you all next Friday for another episode of Cranny Crystals, the podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. Bye. Come and join me in the Manifest with Mart community. For just £10 a month, you'll get exclusive access to my app, and you'll join all the other beautiful souls in the Canny community, where each day you'll be held accountable to making your dreams and desires come to fruition. You'll also be set daily and weekly challenges. There's a chat room built in so you can talk to people in real time, and you can also pop over any questions that you have in the Q&A forum and I'll answer them for you. It's changing people's lives, and we've already had so many people manifesting things in the first 2 weeks alone. Each new moon, I'll also be going live within the group on a face-to-face video to help you get the most out of the lunar cycles, as well as answer any burning questions that you have. And these live meetups are so powerful, and everyone in the group has had nothing but praise for the safe space that we share. There are very limited spaces for this community, however, just to ensure that I can place my focus on you and nurture you into the ultimate manifester. So if you'd like a spot, please be quick and reserve your seat now. Head to cannycrystalsacademy.co.uk and choose the Manifest with Mart option, where you can get instant access, and what's more, you'll also get access to all of the past recordings and chats too. Join now and start living the life of your dreams.